Welcome back to the Storiez 13 channel. Tonight's tale begins with a strange envelope, one that shouldn't exist. Tell us in the comments where you're listening from, and if you've ever received something that defied time. Have you ever received a letter from yourself? Not one you wrote and forgot about, but one that seemed to come from a different time entirely. This is the story of Marco, and a letter that changed everything. It was a quiet evening like any other. Marco had just finished sorting through his mail, tossing aside the usual bills and advertisements. But there, hidden among the junk, was an envelope that caught his eye. It was addressed to him, from him. The postmark, however, was dated 10 years ago. Marco's heart began to race as he carefully opened the envelope. The paper inside felt old, slightly yellowed at the edges. As he unfolded it, he immediately recognized the handwriting. It was his own, but somehow different. The strokes were less confident, the letters more rounded. It was as if a younger version of himself had penned this mysterious message. His eyes scanned the first line. Marco, if you're reading this, it means I've succeeded. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you will change everything. The letter went on to describe, in eerie detail, the very room Marco was sitting in. It mentioned the crack in the ceiling that he'd been meaning to fix, the worn spot on the carpet by the window, even the small chip in his favorite coffee mug. These were things no one else could possibly know, but it was the next part that made Marco's blood run cold. The letter warned of an event that would happen tonight. It didn't specify what, only that it was crucial he follow one simple instruction. Don't open the door after midnight. No matter what you hear, no matter who it seems to be, do not open that door. Marco glanced at the clock. 11:45 p.m. He had 15 minutes until midnight. The letter felt heavy in his hands, the weight of its warning pressing down on him. He read it again, searching for any clue, any explanation, but there was none. Just that final, ominous line, "Don't open the door after midnight." As the minutes ticked by, Marco found himself growing more and more anxious. He paced the room, checking the locks on the windows, peering out into the darkness of the street below. Everything seemed normal, quiet, but the letter's warning echoed in his mind. At exactly 12:03 a.m., it happened. A knock at the door, soft at first, then growing more insistent. Marco froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He approached the door slowly, his hand shaking as he reached for the peephole. What he saw on the other side made his breath catch in his throat. It was himself, but older, much older. The man on the other side of the door looked tired, worn. His hair was gray, his face lined with years Marco hadn't yet lived, and he was whispering something, his lips moving urgently, but Marco couldn't hear the words. For a moment, Marco's hand hovered over the doorknob. Every instinct told him to open it, to face this impossible visitor and demand answers. But the letter's warning held him back. Don't open the door after midnight. So he didn't. He stood there, watching his older self through the peephole, listening to the increasingly frantic knocking. It went on for what felt like hours, though in reality, it was probably only minutes. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it stopped. Marco waited, barely breathing, for several more minutes. But there was nothing. No more knocking, no sound at all from the other side of the door. Finally, exhausted and confused, he stumbled to bed, the letter clutched tightly in his hand. He didn't sleep that night. How could he? His mind raced with questions, theories, fears. What had he just experienced? What would have happened if he had opened the door? And most importantly, why had his younger self felt the need to warn him? As the first light of dawn crept through his window, Marco finally drifted into a fitful sleep. When he woke, groggy and disoriented, he half convinced himself it had all been a dream. The letter, the knocking, the impossible visitor, surely it couldn't have been real. But as he shuffled to the kitchen for his morning coffee, he saw it. Another envelope, sitting innocently on the floor, just inside his front door, as if it had been slipped under while he slept. With trembling hands, Marco picked it up. This one was addressed to him as well, but the postmark was from 10 years in the future. He stood there, the unopened letter in his hands, faced with a choice. Should he open it? Should he read what his future self had to say? Or should he destroy it, walk away from this strange, terrifying mystery? In the end, curiosity won out. Marco took a deep breath and tore open the envelope. As he unfolded the letter inside, he couldn't help but wonder, what warnings, what impossible truths, what glimpses of a future yet to come would he find written in his own hand? The letter began, "Marco, I hope this finds you well. If you're reading this, it means you made the right choice last night. You didn't open the door, but our story isn't over yet. In fact, it's only just beginning." Marco sank into a chair, his coffee forgotten, as he read on. The letter spoke of events yet to come, of choices he would face, of a future that seemed both wondrous and terrifying. It spoke of a journey through time itself, of the consequences of meddling with the past and the future. "You might be wondering why I'm telling you all this," the letter continued. "Why I'm risking everything to send these messages across time. The truth is, Marco, we're caught in a loop that's been repeating for longer than you can imagine. And we are the only ones who can break it." The letter went on to explain a complex series of events, a tangled web of cause and effect that spanned decades. It spoke of experiments gone wrong, of desperate attempts to fix mistakes, of a future that grew darker with each iteration of the loop. "But now, thanks to your decision last night, we have a chance," the letter said. "A chance to change things, to set right what went wrong. It won't be easy. In fact, it will be the hardest thing you've ever done, but it's our only hope." As Marco read the final lines of the letter, he felt a mix of emotions wash over him: fear, excitement, disbelief, determination. He didn't fully understand everything the letter had told him, but he knew one thing for certain: his life would never be the same. The letter concluded with a set of instructions, a series of steps Marco would need to follow in the coming days and weeks. It warned him of the dangers he would face, the sacrifices he might have to make. But it also offered hope for a better future, a chance to break free from the cycle that had trapped him for so long. As he folded the letter and tucked it away, Marco took a deep breath. He looked around his apartment, at the familiar surroundings that now seemed somehow different. Everything had changed, yet nothing had changed at all. He didn't know what the future held. He didn't know if he was truly ready for the journey ahead. But he knew he had to try, for himself, for the future, for the chance to unravel the mystery that had landed on his doorstep in the form of 2 impossible letters. And so, with a mixture of fear and determination, Marco began to prepare. The first step in a journey that would take him across time itself, a journey to save not just his own future, but the future of everything. As night fell once again, Marco couldn't help but wonder, what other letters might find their way to him? What other versions of himself might he encounter? And most importantly, would he have the strength to see this through to the end? Only time would tell. And time, as Marco was quickly learning, was a far more complex and dangerous thing than he had ever imagined. Thanks for joining us in this unsettling glimpse through time. Some messages are better left unread, and some doors forever closed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and sleep with one eye open.